moonlight rests gently over a wide, sleeping shore. The water is dark glass, only slightly wrinkled, as if the ocean is trying not to wake itself. Somewhere out past the last line of foam, a slow fog drifts like a soft blanket being pulled up to the chin of the world. Even the grasses along the dunes seem to lean in, listening, each blade holding still in the cool night air. There's a quiet kind of patience here, the kind that doesn't ask you to do anything. It simply makes space. The tide breathes in, the tide breathes out. A pebble settles into sand. A distant wave sighs and then forgets it ever made a sound. And honestly, the trees, if there are any nearby, look like they're practicing deep breathing. Very impressive. They never even downloaded an app for it. Welcome to Sleepy Nature Sleep, where the wild grows soft and curiosity becomes calm. Tonight, let your thoughts follow the rhythm of the earth, your breathing settle like evening wind, and your mind wander gently through the quiet wild. If this place feels peaceful, you're always welcome back, like a quiet campfire you can return to whenever the day feels too loud. No membership card required, only your presence, and maybe a blanket that knows your name. And if you'd like to support the channel, it helps us keep the nightlights low and the nature facts cozy, so we can keep making stories that feel like warm, slow waves. Now, let's begin to drift toward tonight's gentle wonder, the albatross, a bird shaped by wind and distance, a traveler of open oceans, a creature whose life is woven through air currents and salt-sweet horizons. So calmly, so steadily, it can feel like flying is less an action and more a resting place. Imagine it now, not as a dramatic silhouette, but as a quiet presence. Wings long and patient, feathers arranged like soft handwriting. The albatross doesn't rush. It doesn't argue with the sky. It simply glides, as if the wind is carrying a secret and the bird has all the time in the world to listen. Tonight, we won't chase excitement. We'll follow slow patterns. We'll let the ocean's steady rhythm guide us into wide, gentle spaces where the albatross moves through night air the way a thought moves through a calm mind. Unhurried, light, and soon. Barely there at all. So loosen your shoulders. Let your jaw unclench. Let the day slip quietly off you like a coat you don't need in this warm, moonlit world. And together, we'll drift out over the dark water, into the endless, cozy flights of the albatross, somewhere beyond the shoreline, where the moonlight thins and the ocean becomes a single dark velvet sheet. There is a question that floats, not loudly, not insistently, just gently. It drifts the way a feather drifts. It doesn't demand an answer. It simply keeps you company. Imagine you're standing at the edge of the water. The tide moves in slow sentences, pausing between words. A small wave arrives, curls softly, and dissolves as if it never meant to interrupt anything. The air tastes faintly of salt and cool night. Even the stars look like they're speaking in whispers. And here, beneath the steady breathing of the sea, the question arrives. What does it mean to travel far without hurrying? Not the kind of travel with checklists and alarms. Not the kind where you have to remember if you packed your charger. This is the kind of travel that feels like a long exhale. The kind that isn't trying to win anything. The kind that doesn't post updates. the kind that simply moves, because moving can be its own quiet form of rest. Out on the open ocean, the albatross glides across distance like a thought drifting across a calm mind. Not sharp, not urgent, just present. The bird doesn't seem to chase the horizon. It lets the horizon come closer in its own time, like a door slowly swinging open in a warm breeze. If you've ever had a day that felt too fast, too many tabs open in your head, too many little demands tapping on your shoulder, then this question might feel especially gentle tonight, because it offers a possibility. That motion and peace can live together. That going somewhere does not have to feel like running. That distance can be soft. The ocean helps us understand this. The water doesn't rush to be water. It doesn't try to become a better version of itself by morning. It simply moves the way it moves, following the pull of the moon, the shape of the shore, the calm choreography of tides. It is steady, and it is enough. So let that question settle beside you, like a smooth stone placed in your palm. What does it mean to travel far, without hurrying? You don't have to answer. Not tonight. You can let it remain open, like a window cracked slightly for fresh air. We'll carry it quietly into the next part of our story, letting it echo gently as we drift toward the world of wind, water, and those endless, patient wings. And for now, you can simply breathe, as if your breath is a tide, in and out, returning again, unbothered, unforced, always arriving right on time. Before we follow the albatross into its wide, airy world, it helps to meet the place itself, the soft stage where everything happens without needing applause. Picture an ocean at night, not dramatic, not stormy, just calm water, dark and reflective, as if it's been polished by the day's sunlight and tucked into bed. The wind is cool, but not sharp. It moves like a slow hand smoothing a blanket. Every so often, it brings the scent of salt, seaweed, and faraway places you don't need to name. The shoreline is a gentle border between two kinds of quiet. On land, the dunes rest in small curves, dotted with hardy grasses that know how to live with less. They bend, and then they rise again, not because they are fighting, but because that is simply their rhythm. If you listen closely, you may hear tiny sounds, a grain of sand rolling, a distant bird call softened by distance, the hush of foam settling back into water. And overhead, the sky is spacious. Stars appear like pinpricks in a dark cloth, steady, patient, uninterested in your to-do list. The moon hangs quietly, pouring silver onto the sea in a long, shimmering path, like it's leaving a gentle note for anyone who happens to look up. This is a world shaped by repeating patterns. The tide arrives and leaves. The wind shifts slightly, then settles. Temperatures cool slowly after sunset. Nothing changes all at once. Nature here seems to prefer gradual transitions, like dimming a lamp instead of flipping a switch. And the albatross fits perfectly into this slow system. The open ocean is not a blank space. It is textured with invisible lines, currents that carry warmth and cold, winds that rise and fall, waves that move in long, rolling rows. To many creatures, these patterns feel like a map, not the kind you fold and stuff in your pocket, but the kind you sense through air pressure, scent, and motion. Even the light has its own rules. Night turns the sea into shadow, and moonlight paints only the highest edges of waves. clouds drift across the moon sometimes, and the brightness softens as if the sky is pulling a thin curtain for privacy. And here's a comforting thought. In this landscape, nothing is in a hurry. The ocean doesn't rush. It's not trying to impress anyone. The wind doesn't sprint, it strolls. Even the moon seems to move like it has nowhere else to be, which technically is true. So as you rest, let your mind accept the pace of this place. Slow, steady, spacious, a world where long flights can feel like floating, and where distance is not a demand, but a gentle invitation. Now, in that wide ocean quiet, imagine a shape appearing, not suddenly, not dramatically, just gradually, like a thought forming at the edge of sleep. An albatross. It is a seabird built for openness, built for air that stretches in every direction, built for the kind of movement that feels less like effort and more like listening. When an albatross flies, it often looks as if it has remembered a secret about the wind, something we've all forgotten while rushing from one thing to the next. Its body is calm and streamlined, like a small boat made for air instead of water. Its head is steady. Its eyes hold that distant, unfazed look of someone who has seen a lot of horizon and never felt the need to comment on it. And the wings, those famous wings, extend outward with quiet confidence, wide and patient, like two long, gentle sentences written across the sky. Some albatross species have wingspans that can reach remarkable lengths, making them among the largest flying birds by wingspan. And yet, there's nothing showy about it. The albatross isn't trying to be impressive. It simply is what it is, an animal shaped by the slow logic of ocean winds. You might notice its colors, often a mix of white, cream, gray, or deep brown, depending on the species. In moonlight, these shades soften further, blending with the sea's silver and shadow. Feathers overlap like careful layering, each one placed in a way that helps the bird move smoothly through air. And here's the quiet magic. The albatross doesn't flap constantly like many birds do. It uses the wind. It reads the air the way some people read a book, slowly, attentively, with a kind of relaxed focus. Air over the ocean isn't uniform. It shifts, it rises, it slides across waves, and the albatross is tuned to these changes. It can glide for long stretches, making small adjustments, turning slightly, lifting gently, letting the atmosphere do much of the work. If the wind were a soft river, the albatross would be the calmest canoe you've ever seen, just drifting along with quiet skill. And unlike most of us, it never gets distracted by a notification sound. The albatross stays present. The albatross is, in its own way, extremely emotionally mature. So tonight, we meet the albatross not as a daredevil, not as a dramatic adventurer, but as a wind reader, a creature of long calm, a traveler who doesn't hurry. And as you breathe in and out slowly, you might notice something. The thought of that kind of movement, wide, patient, effortless, can make your own body feel a little lighter. Shoulders soften, forehead smooths. The mind begins to glide too. If you could look closely at an albatross in flight, quietly, respectfully, as if you were watching from a comfortable distance, you might notice that its wings don't just move through air. They belong to air. They extend outward in long, elegant lines, sometimes held so still they look like they've been paused in place. And the more you watch, the more you realize these wings are not built for quickness. They are built for ease. An albatross wing is designed like a gentle tool for gliding. Long wings help create lift, allowing the bird to stay aloft with minimal flapping. Over the ocean, where winds are often steady and open, this design becomes a kind of quiet advantage, like having a perfectly fitted coat for a cool evening. Not flashy, just right. The feathers along the wing lie in careful layers, like shingles on a roof, overlapping to guide air smoothly. At the tips, the feathers can splay slightly, helping the bird manage airflow in subtle ways. Nothing jerky, nothing rushed, just small adjustments, the way you might shift your pillow without fully waking up. And there's something deeply calming about that, because these wings turn the sky into a supportive space, not an obstacle. The albatross doesn't have to argue with gravity all the time. It collaborates with it, using wind and lift the way a dancer uses music, following, not fighting. If you're the kind of person whose mind gets busy, stacking thoughts like plates in a sink that never empties, then the albatross offers a different image. It suggests that movement can be gentler than you think, that you can go forward without clinching, that you can travel through your own evening without flapping furiously at every worry. The wings also carry a sense of proportion that feels almost soothing. Long, broad, patient. They don't look hurried. They look like they were built for long sentences, not short exclamations. And if wings are like doorways, then each glide is a quiet passage into more spacious air. The albatross lifts, turns, and levels out again. The motion is smooth enough to feel like it's happening inside a dream. The sea below rolls in slow patterns, reflecting moonlight like a scattered ribbon. The wind rises along a wave, and the bird meets it, not with effort, but with timing. And here is a small, affectionate thought. If the albatross had a motto, it might be something like, "Why flap when you can glide?" Which honestly is advice many of us could use in daily life. Not for everything, of course. Some things do require flapping, but not at 2 a.m. in your head. So as we linger with these wings, these calm doorways into open sky, let your breathing become long too, in and out, as if your ribs are gently opening and closing, like wings that already know the wind is there to help you. When you look out at the sea, especially at night, it can seem like one endless surface, dark, smooth, and quietly mysterious. But for an albatross, the ocean is not a blank page. It is a map. Not a map with labels and neat borders, but a living map made of scent, wind, temperature, and rhythm. It is written in moving lines, currents, swells, and invisible layers of air that slide across the water like soft fabric. The ocean carries information the way a breeze carries perfume. Tiny hints drift upward, the smell of algae, the faint trace of fish, the salt-sweet signature of a distant patch of sea. To us, it might all smell like ocean, but to a seabird, it can be more detailed than that, more like a pantry where each shelf has its own quiet aroma. And then there are the winds. Over open water, wind tends to travel with fewer interruptions than it does on land. No buildings, no forests, just long, flowing currents of air that rise and fall with waves. The albatross moves within these currents, sensing small differences, like a person sensing where the warm spot is in a bed without turning on the light. Even the waves form patterns. Swells move in broad lines across the ocean, sometimes coming from storms far away, long after the sky above has returned to calm. The sea remembers. The surface carries echoes of distant weather, stretched out and softened by time. In this way, the ocean becomes both road and record. It tells the albatross where it has been and where it might drift next. And it does so quietly, without signs, without announcements, just the gentle language of nature. If you imagine the albatross gliding over this map, you can almost feel how soothing it is. No sharp turns, no traffic, no rerouting, just a slow unfolding of distance. There is also something comforting in how the albatross doesn't seem bothered by how large the ocean is. The size doesn't overwhelm it. The open space doesn't demand panic. The bird belongs to it, the way a pebble belongs to a beach, simply by being there. And you, listening now, can borrow a little of that feeling. The idea that wide spaces can be safe, that distance can be gentle, that not everything needs to be measured, managed, or conquered. Sometimes you can simply glide through the night. The ocean map continues under the moon's soft path, and the albatross continues above it, following invisible clues with calm precision. It is not hurried. It is not tense. It is simply moving within a world that already knows how to support it. So let your thoughts become like that ocean map, open, spacious, softly patterned. And let your breath be the wind above it, steady and kind, carrying you onward with no need to rush. Out on the open ocean, life can look simple from far away. Water, air, and a long line where they meet. But for an albatross, this wide simplicity becomes a quiet routine, like a gentle schedule written in wind. Imagine the bird resting on the surface of the sea, not bobbing anxiously, not fidgeting, just floating. The albatross sits low, feathers smooth against the night air, as if the ocean is a calm sofa and it has finally found the perfect spot. The water holds it with an easy steadiness, lifting and lowering in slow motion. A small wave arrives and the bird rises with it, then settles again, unbothered. The ocean is not only where the albatross travels, it is also where the albatross pauses. It drinks the salt air, it observes, it waits without impatience. And waiting, in nature, is often not empty time. It's simply part of being alive. When the moment feels right, when the wind offers a comfortable hand, the albatross begins again. It opens its wings and lets the air take the first step. There's often a sense that the bird doesn't push into flight as much as it accepts it. A few gentle motions, a small lift, and then glide. Albatrosses spend much of their lives at sea, sometimes remaining over the ocean for long stretches. Their bodies are shaped for this world. Wings that favor gliding, a sturdy build that handles salt and spray, and a calm kind of efficiency that doesn't waste energy on unnecessary drama. Even their feathers seem suited to the job, layered and protective, like a well-made raincoat. And while the sea can be chilly, the albatross carries insulation in its plumage and a patience in its rhythm. It doesn't need to rush to stay comfortable. It knows how to be steady. If you watch this routine long enough, it starts to feel like a lesson in softness. rest and motion, stillness and drift, nothing extreme, nothing frantic, just a gentle alternation, floating, gliding, floating again, like breathing with wings. And here comes a small, friendly thought. If humans lived like albatrosses, we'd probably schedule more stare at the horizon time. We'd call it productivity. We'd make calendars for it. The albatross, thankfully, does not do any of that. It simply lives. So as you lie here listening, let your body borrow that albatross routine. A little more ease in the shoulders, a little less gripping in the jaw, the sense that you don't have to earn rest. You can simply float in it. Tonight, we drift with a creature whose life is balanced between salt and sky, whose routine is made of quiet pauses and long glides. And as we continue, the story itself begins to feel like a soft tide, arriving, leaving, returning, always gentle. If the ocean is a map, then the wind is the handwriting, and the albatross reads it with a kind of calm artistry. Not the intense, furrow-brow kind of artistry, more like the stirring tea slowly kind. Over the sea, the air forms layers. Close to the water's surface, wind can be slower, softened by friction. Higher above, it often moves faster. These differences create a gentle gradient, like a slope you can lean into. The albatross uses this invisible structure in a beautiful technique often described as dynamic soaring, though the name sounds much more energetic than the feeling it gives. In practice, it can look like this. The bird glides low, skimming above the waves where the wind is calmer. Then it arcs upward into faster air, gaining a little extra lift and speed. Then it turns and slides back down again, repeating the pattern in smooth loops. It's not a frantic swoop. It's a slow, elegant rhythm, like drawing wide circles in the sky with a feather dipped in moonlight. The bird's body barely seems to work in the way we imagine work. There are small adjustments, gentle turns, subtle angling of wings. The albatross shifts like a sail catching a breeze, not like a motor revving. The wind does much of the effort. The albatross supplies timing, and timing in nature can be wonderfully unhurried. The albatross doesn't force the air to cooperate. It waits for the right current and then simply joins it. This is the kind of collaboration most of us would appreciate with our inboxes. But alas, email does not soar. There is also something soothing in how predictable this can be. Loop, glide, rise, settle. The movements repeat, but never feel mechanical. Each loop is slightly different because the ocean surface is always changing. Waves roll, wind shifts, the air breathes. The albatross listens to those changes with its whole body. Even the soundscape matches the calm. Imagine the soft rush of air over feathers, the distant hush of water, and now and then, the quiet clap of a wave. No loud soundtrack, no announcer voice yelling, and here we see just wind, water, and a bird riding slow spirals across the night. So as you breathe, let your inhale be the gentle rise into higher air. Let your exhale be the smooth glide downward into softer wind, in and out, repeating. The albatross's art becomes a rhythm your body can borrow. And the more you imagine it, the more your thoughts may begin to do the same, circling gently, settling, drifting, returning, until even the idea of effort feels far away, like a shoreline fading into fog. In the soft world of open ocean travel, rest becomes something flexible. It isn't always a full stop. Sometimes it is a slow easing. Sometimes it is a quiet pause while still moving. And so, it's natural to wonder, gently, without turning it into a mystery novel, how a bird like the albatross finds rest while living so much of its life between sea and sky. One comforting truth is that the albatross does rest. Often, it rests on the water. Floating is one of its calmest skills. When it settles onto the surface, it becomes part of the ocean's slow rhythm. The water lifts it, the water lowers it. The night air cools its feathers. The stars remain overhead like a steady ceiling. It's a kind of bed made of gentle motion. Albatrosses can also rest in subtle ways while traveling, using long glides that require minimal muscle work compared to constant flapping. If you think of flapping as running, then gliding is more like leaning back in a slow-moving hammock. The wind carries, the wings hold, the body relaxes into the design it was given. There's also something quietly fascinating about birds and sleep more generally. Many birds can rest in ways that allow them to stay aware of their surroundings. Not in a worried way, just in a nature way. A kind of built-in calm alertness, like how you can nap on a train and still somehow notice your stop. The body learns what matters, the rest remains gentle. For seabirds, the ocean itself helps. The steady movement of waves can be soothing. The open space reduces the need for constant scanning the way a crowded place might. The wind is predictable enough to become background music, and the albatross, experienced and steady, settles into these conditions like someone who knows their favorite bedtime routine by heart. If we let this inspire us softly, we might take away a simple idea. Rest doesn't always have to be perfect to be real. Sometimes rest begins as a loosening, a smoothing, a gentle release of effort. And here's a small piece of humor, delivered in a whisper. The albatross is not lying awake at night thinking, "Did I say something weird in that conversation 3 years ago?" The albatross simply rests, remarkable, iconic, aspirational. So tonight, as you listen, let yourself practice the same kind of uncomplicated easing. You don't need to force sleep. You can allow it to arrive in stages, like a bird settling onto water, first touching down lightly, then relaxing fully as the surface supports it. Your mind can glide, your thoughts can soften, your body can float, and in that gentle in-between, between waking and sleeping, everything becomes simpler, quieter, kinder. Night changes the ocean's color palette into something quieter. The bright blues and glittering whites of day fade into deep charcoal, ink, and silver. Moonlight becomes the only gentle spotlight, and even it behaves politely, touching the wave tops, leaving the troughs in shadow, never trying to be too much. In this softened world, the albatross still moves, not in a dramatic silhouette kind of way, more in a there it is, calmly existing kind of way. A pale wing may catch a thin wash of moonlight. A dark back may blend with the sea surface. The bird becomes part of the night's quiet design. Flying at night over the ocean can feel like traveling through a slow dream. The horizon is less defined. The line between sky and water blurs gently, as if the world is practicing being simpler. Clouds drift across the moon sometimes, dimming the silver path, and then releasing it again. The wind continues its steady work, and the albatross continues its steady glide, following patterns it knows with its body. This is a good place to remember. Many seabirds have adaptations that help them navigate and sense their environment in low light and open spaces. They don't rely on bright landmarks the way we might. Their world is made of subtler cues, wind direction, wave patterns, scent trails, and the steady presence of the ocean itself. And the night, rather than feeling empty, becomes spacious. The soundscape is reduced, less chatter, less bustle, more hush. The ocean speaks in long, gentle phrases. The wind answers quietly. And the albatross moves through it all like a slow thought, drifting from one side of the mind to the other. If you imagine this flight long enough, you may notice your own senses begin to soften. Your eyes might relax behind your eyelids. Your forehead might smooth out. Your breathing might deepen. There is something about a creature gliding through darkness that makes your nervous system feel less interested in tension. And here's a tiny nighttime joke, the kind you can smile at without waking up. The albatross does not fear the dark. The albatross lives in it, like it pays rent. Very responsible, very settled. So let this part of the story be a gentle dimming. As the bird continues its soft flight, let the edges of your thoughts blur a little too. You don't have to keep everything sharp. You don't have to hold the whole day in focus. Night is allowed to simplify things. The albatross glides, the ocean breathes, the moon watches quietly, and you, listening, can drift right alongside, lighter, slower, and increasingly ready to settle into the most natural thing of all, rest. If you've ever walked near the sea and noticed how the air changes, how it tastes a little different, how it feels fuller, then you already know something important. The ocean carries messages, not loud messages, not billboard messages, soft messages, the kind that arrive in the background and still manage to feel meaningful. For an albatross, scent can be one of those gentle guides. Over the open water, tiny molecules drift upward from the surface, traces of algae, plankton, and the subtle chemistry of life moving below. Some seabirds are known to be especially sensitive to these cues, using smell to help locate productive ocean areas where food may be more available. And it's rather lovely to think about, isn't it? A bird gliding through moonlight, following not a bright sign or a sharp arrow, but a faint hint in the air, a suggestion, a whisper of where the ocean is being generous. The albatross's nostrils are shaped in a way that reflects its seabird lineage, often forming tube-like structures on the beak in certain relatives, part of a group that includes many ocean-going birds with strong scent abilities. The details can be intricate, but the feeling is simple. The air has texture. It has information. It is not empty. If you imagine the world like this, full of quiet signals, you might start noticing how calming it is compared to the human habit of shouting everything in neon. Nature rarely yells. Nature suggests, it nudges, it invites. A faint smell of seaweed might mean a certain kind of water. A shift in wind might bring a new trace, something subtle, drifting from beyond the next swell. The albatross moves with these hints, adjusting course without fuss. There's no big announcement, just a slow turn, a gentle glide into a slightly different direction. And it's not only smell. The ocean surface itself carries signs, birds gathering in the distance, the way waves look when currents meet, the faint sparkle of life near the top layers of water. All of it forms a soft tapestry of clues. If you've had a busy day, your mind may feel like it has been following too many sharp signals, alerts, messages, demands. So tonight, let this be different. Let your attention become softer. Imagine following only gentle cues, the rise and fall of your breath, the warmth of your blanket, the quiet weight of your body sinking comfortably into bed. And here's a small, sleepy smile. The Albatross does not check reviews. It does not compare 5 different options. It does not read top 10 best ocean smells of 2026. It simply follows the scent of far places like a calm expert who never overthinks. So as the Albatross glides through air that carries ocean whispers, let your thoughts do the same, drifting, sensing, settling. Let the world feel wide but not overwhelming. Let it feel like a place that can hold you gently. Because tonight, we aren't rushing anywhere. We are simply following the softest trail, the one that leads naturally into sleep. There is a quiet intimacy to feather care, not the dramatic kind, no flair, no show. Just a gentle, repetitive ritual that says, in the simplest way, I will take care of what carries me. Picture the Albatross resting on the water or perched on a calm stretch of land near the sea. The world around it is slow. Wind moves like a soft brush. The ocean hums in a low voice, and the bird begins to preen, small, careful motions of beak through feather, feather through beak. Preening is more than tidiness. It is maintenance, yes, but it is also comfort. Feathers must lie in the right direction to trap warmth and guide air. They must stay clean enough to handle salt spray. They must remain smooth enough to help the bird glide with ease. So the Albatross works gently, feather by feather, as if reading a long, familiar book. You can imagine the sound, a soft rasp of beak along plumage, almost like someone smoothing the edges of paper. Sometimes the bird pauses, head tilted slightly, as if checking the alignment of a wing like a careful tailor. Then it continues, unhurried. Many birds also spread oils from a gland near the base of the tail, often called the uropygial gland, helping to condition and protect their feathers. It's nature's quiet version of skincare. No 10-step routine, no influencer recommendations, just a practical little system that's been working for a very long time. The Albatross applies this oil during preening, helping feathers resist water and stay flexible. There is something deeply soothing about this. The Albatross does not rush through its self-care. It doesn't treat it like an annoying chore. It treats it like part of being alive, like breathing, like blinking, like floating. And if you're listening tonight with a body that feels tired or a mind that feels rumpled, you may find comfort in that. Because preening is a reminder that small, quiet care matters. Not grand gestures, not perfection, just gentle attention. Here's a featherlight joke delivered softly. The Albatross never says, "I'll preen later." It does not procrastinate its feathers into chaos. It is annoyingly well-adjusted. So, as the bird smooths its plumage, let that image smooth your thoughts. Imagine each slow stroke of the beak as a calming pass over your mind, straightening what feels tangled, settling what feels lifted. laying everything down in a softer direction. Your shoulders loosen, your face relaxes, your breathing finds a slower pace, and in the quiet ritual of feather care, you may feel something settle in you too, a simple permission to be gentle with yourself, one small moment at a time. Out on the ocean, food doesn't arrive with a bell. It doesn't come neatly plated. It drifts, it hides, it appears in quiet chances. And the albatross meets these chances with a calm patience that feels almost like wisdom. Imagine the bird gliding low over the water, wings stretched wide, barely moving. Below, the surface is dark and rolling, with occasional silver edges where moonlight touches the tops of waves. The albatross watches without urgency. It is not frantic. It is attentive, the way you might watch steam curl from a cup of tea. Albatrosses often feed on marine life that is available near the surface, such as squid, fish, and other ocean organisms. Sometimes they pick items from the water while floating. Sometimes they dip gently toward the surface during flight. The behavior is often quiet and efficient. A small shift, a soft lowering, a simple taking. Then the bird returns to gliding as if nothing needed to be announced. The ocean itself helps with this. Currents gather nutrients, and nutrients support life. Some areas become more productive than others, places where the sea is quietly busy beneath the surface. The albatross travels across wide distances and learns the patterns of these places, guided by wind, scent, and experience. It is a long-term relationship with the ocean, less a hunt, more a familiar routine of finding. And in a sleep story, we don't need to make it sharp. We can keep it soft. The albatross receives what the sea offers. It does not rage at an empty patch of water. It does not dramatize a quiet night. It simply continues, floating, gliding, waiting, until the ocean provides again. Here is a tiny joke, as gentle as a wave. The albatross does not snack out of boredom. The albatross does not stress eat. It is not standing on the water thinking, I deserve a little treat for surviving today. It simply eats when it's time. A calm and emotionally stable icon. As you imagine this, let it slow you down. The ocean does not rush to provide. The albatross does not rush to take. Everything happens in a natural pacing that feels like the opposite of a busy day. So if your mind has been chewing on worries, let it rest. Picture the albatross taking only what it needs, then returning to quiet motion. Let your own thoughts do the same, softening, releasing, drifting back into open space. The wide blue sea holds food, holds wind, holds silence. The albatross moves through it with calm acceptance. And you can move through this night the same way, one slow breath at a time, letting what you need arrive gently, without hurry. The ocean can look empty from far away, especially at night. A single dark sheet, a long horizon, a quiet sky. But if you drift a little closer, softly, patiently, you begin to notice that the sea is a shared place. A wide neighborhood with many quiet residents. As the albatross glides, it is not alone in the world. Other seabirds may appear as small shapes in the distance. Petrels skimming low over the water, sheer waters moving in graceful lines, perhaps a gull resting farther inshore. Each bird has its own style, its own rhythm, like different instruments playing the same slow song. Below the surface, life continues in a calmer dimension. Fish move in schools like gentle, shifting shadows. Jellyfish pulse slowly, as if they are breathing with the ocean. Sometimes flying fish break the surface for a moment and then return, leaving only a small, soft ripple behind. Nothing needs to be dramatic to be real. And then there are the larger presences, whales for instance, moving through the water with a steadiness that feels ancient. You might not see them clearly in the night, but you can imagine them. Slow backs rolling, long dives, quiet exhales that rise like mist. Even the thought of them can make the ocean feel deeper, fuller, more alive. These companions are not presented as rivals or threats tonight. This is not a battlefield story. This is a community story. The ocean holds many lives at once, and they pass each other like quiet strangers who understand the rules. Keep your pace, respect the space, continue gently. Seabirds sometimes gather where ocean conditions bring food toward the surface, forming loose, shifting groups. From above, these gatherings can look like a soft constellation of wings, and the albatross, with its long glide, may pass by calmly, observing, joining briefly, or continuing onward. There's something tender about this, a reminder that vast spaces can still contain connection, that even in openness, there are neighbors, seen and unseen, sharing the same wind and water. And here is a small, sleepy laugh. None of these animals are trying to network. Nobody is exchanging business cards out there. Nobody is scheduling a meeting to circle back. They simply coexist, and somehow, it works. Nature is quietly excellent at skipping unnecessary meetings. As you rest, let this ocean community soothe you. You don't have to carry everything alone tonight. The world is full of quiet companionship, breath in the air, water under the moon, distant life moving in its own gentle ways. The albatross glides onward, and the sea continues to hold its many residents like a calm home. And your body too can feel held by the bed, by the blanket, by the steady rhythm of night, settling into the kind of rest that feels shared, supported, and safe. Some journeys don't feel like straight lines. They feel like loops, slow arcs that eventually bring you back to something familiar. The albatross, in its wide ocean life, often follows this kind of pattern. Not a rushed return, not a dramatic arrival, a gradual, patient looping toward home. Home, for an albatross, may be an island or a remote coastline, places with wind, open space, and a sense of belonging written into rock and grass. Some albatrosses travel vast distances across oceans, then return to breeding sites with remarkable consistency. The details of navigation can involve many cues: wind patterns, the sun and stars, Earth's magnetic field, and the learned geography of the ocean. But tonight, we can keep it simple and soothing. Imagine it like this. The albatross carries a memory of place, not a sharp memory like a photograph, a softer memory like the scent of something familiar or the feeling of a room you've lived in for years. The ocean changes constantly, but the albatross senses patterns that remain steady enough to guide it. And as it glides, the loop doesn't feel like a task. It feels like a drift that slowly turns, a curve in the wind, a gradual leaning toward land. The bird moves through different air currents, through different temperatures, over different wave shapes. It passes regions where the sea smells slightly different, where the color of the water changes by a shade you might not notice unless you lived your whole life above it. The albatross notices gently, with no fuss. There is something soothing in the idea of returning without rushing. Many of us treat returning like a sprint. Get there, arrive, handle it. The albatross treats returning like a glide, like a long exhale that slowly becomes familiar ground. And here's a small bedtime joke. The albatross never says, "I'll just take a quick shortcut." The albatross is not trapped in a spiral of bad navigation decisions. It simply loops wisely, very emotionally regulated. Again, if you let this image settle into you, it can soften your own sense of distance. Maybe your day felt long. Maybe your mind traveled too far into worries. Tonight, you can loop home too, not to a place on a map, but to a simpler state inside yourself. A state where you are safe, supported, and allowed to rest. With each breath, imagine the loop tightening gently, bringing you closer to stillness. In and out. Each cycle a little calmer, each cycle a little quieter. Like an albatross turning slowly toward the island it already knows. And as the night deepens, the idea of home becomes less a destination and more a feeling, steady, soft, and waiting patiently for you to arrive. Islands have a special kind of patience. They do not chase visitors. They do not advertise. They simply sit, rock and soil and grass, waiting quietly in the middle of wide water, like little resting thoughts in the ocean's mind. For many albatross species, islands are important places, safe breeding grounds away from the busiest edges of land. Remote islands can offer open space, steady winds, and a kind of familiarity that returns year after year. When an albatross approaches such an island after a long time at sea, the moment doesn't need fanfare. It can be gentle. It can be soft. Imagine the island at night. The wind moves across its slopes, bending grasses in slow waves. The air smells of salt and earth. The ground holds warmth from the day, releasing it gradually into the cool evening. The shoreline curves like a quiet smile, and the ocean wraps around it in steady, rhythmic breaths. From above, the albatross glides in, a wide-winged presence coming closer and closer until details begin to appear. Darker patches of rock, pale sand, clumps of vegetation. Perhaps there are other birds already there, tucked into the landscape like sleepy punctuation marks. Albatross colonies can be lively in daylight, but tonight we hold them in softer focus. We imagine the sounds muted, the movement slower, a few calls in the distance, a rustle of feathers, the gentle shift of bodies settling into comfortable positions. The island itself feels like a quiet host. It offers ground to stand on. It offers wind to lift from. It offers a place where the long loop home becomes something tangible. And the albatross, returning, seems to fit into this setting as naturally as a stone fits into a palm. Here is a tiny joke, barely louder than a whisper. The island does not greet the albatross with a welcome banner. No balloons, no confetti. It simply remains an island. Extremely consistent, very reliable friend energy. As you listen, you might sense why this matters for sleep. We too crave a place that waits for us, not a place that demands performance, but a place that allows us to arrive as we are. Your bed can be that island tonight. Your blanket can be that steady shoreline. The room around you can be the quiet ground that doesn't ask questions. So let the albatross's approach become your own settling. Imagine gliding gently toward comfort. Imagine landing without a jolt. Imagine being held by something steady and kind. The island waits. The albatross arrives. The wind softens, and your body too can settle into its own safe ground, quietly, naturally, as if it has been returning here all along. On the island, where the wind has its familiar scent and the ground feels steady beneath feathers, there is a kind of greeting that doesn't need words. It arrives in movement, in posture, in the gentle language of bodies that recognize each other. Albatrosses are often known for long-term pair bonds in many species, returning to the same breeding areas and reuniting with partners across seasons. But tonight, we don't need to present it like a headline. We can let it feel like it truly is in nature, a steady rhythm, a quiet pattern of returning, a familiarity that settles like warm light. Imagine two albatrosses near each other on the ground. The air is cool. The grass shifts softly. A distant wave hushes against rock. One bird turns its head just so. The other answers with a small motion, an echo, a mirror, a soft agreement. Their courtship behaviors can include synchronized displays, gentle bill touching, bowing, calling, and movements that look almost like a slow dance rehearsed over time. Not frantic, not flashy, more like a couple swaying quietly in a kitchen while the kettle warms. The kind of dancing that happens when nobody is watching, or when the watchers are the moon and a patient wind. It's easy to imagine the meaning in it. Here you are. I remember you. We are still part of the same gentle story. And there's something calming about that idea. In a world where humans sometimes struggle to remember where they put their keys, the albatross returns across wide oceans and still finds its partner with calm consistency. It's mildly humbling, also slightly suspicious, but mostly it's sweet. This greeting isn't about excitement. It's about reassurance, a small ritual that says, we are together again. It's like smoothing a blanket, more comfort than spectacle. These movements, repeated over seasons, strengthen bonds and help pairs coordinate the quiet work that comes next. As you listen, let the image soften your own mind. Think of how comforting it feels to be recognized without needing to explain yourself, to arrive somewhere and feel immediately that you belong. You don't have to do anything to earn that feeling tonight. You can simply imagine it, the island's steady presence, the wind's familiar touch, the quiet reunion of two birds whose lives move in long cycles of distance and return. And maybe, as the albatross greeting unfolds in slow motion, bill to bill, bow to bow, your thoughts begin to slow as well, as if your mind is learning a gentler language, a language of simple, reassuring patterns. Breathing in, breathing out, the way they move, steady, synchronized, unhurried. A greeting that lasts, not because it's loud, but because it's calm enough to repeat forever. In the wide ocean world, where everything feels spacious and unbounded, the albatross's nesting life can be surprisingly focused. It often comes down to something small, something simple, something carefully held, one egg. Many albatross species lay a single egg per breeding attempt, and in a way, that single egg feels like the quiet center of the whole island story. Not dramatic, not urgent, just important in a gentle, steady way, like a candle flame in a still room. Imagine the nest area, a small space on the ground, perhaps shaped from soil, grass, and whatever the island offers. The wind moves over it, but the birds choose a spot that feels right, open enough for takeoff and landing, stable enough to return to, familiar enough to hold a rhythm. When the egg is laid, it doesn't sparkle, it doesn't announce itself. It simply rests there, smooth, pale, and quietly full of possibility. A single egg means the parents invest deeply. Their time, their warmth, their patience, poured into one small beginning. It's not a story of quantity. It's a story of attention, of care that is slow and continuous, and there is something soothing about that. We often live in a world that praises doing more tasks, more speed, more output. The albatross, meanwhile, says, one thing, tended gently, can be enough. Here's a tiny joke, whispered kindly. The albatross is not juggling 3 side hustles and a personal brand. The albatross is doing one egg, just one. And it is absolutely committed. The parents take turns incubating, sharing responsibility in long shifts, sometimes lasting days. While one bird sits, the other may travel out to sea to feed and return. The rhythm becomes a slow exchange. Warmth for food, rest for travel, togetherness for distance, and the sitting parent sits. It settles its body over the egg, feathers forming a soft dome of warmth. The egg is held against a brood patch, an area of bare or less feathered skin that helps transfer heat efficiently. Science, yes. But tonight it feels like something simpler, warmth offered with patience. If you let this image rest in your mind, it can become a lullaby of care, a reminder that tenderness can be quiet, that devotion can look like stillness. So as the albatross holds its single egg beneath the cool island wind, let your own body feel held too, by the bed, by the blanket, by the night itself. You are allowed to rest in one simple thing, breathing in, breathing out, a small, steady promise, kept gently, one moment at a time. On the island, time does not feel like a ticking clock. It feels like wind. It feels like tide. It feels like the slow rotation of the moon across the sky. And within this gentle time, the albatross parents share warmth in shifts, like 2 careful keepers of a small, quiet flame. One bird settles onto the nest and covers the egg. The other lifts away, unhurried, and glides out toward the open sea. There is no frantic goodbye, no dramatic last look over the shoulder, just a calm understanding. We will trade places when it is time. These incubation shifts can last a long while in many albatross species, sometimes days. The sitting bird conserves energy, resting and keeping the egg warm. The traveling bird feeds at sea and returns with the fuel needed for the long rhythm of parenting. It's a system built on patience and cooperation. And cooperation here doesn't look like a meeting. It doesn't look like a checklist. It looks like trust, like a slow passing of responsibility from wing to wing. Imagine the sitting parent now. Its body is still, but not tense. Feathers are fluffed slightly against the cool air. The head may tuck down at times, eyes half-lidded, resting in that soft state between alert and drowsy. The wind moves over the bird's back like a quiet hand. The island holds steady. From a distance, you might barely notice anything happening. But that's the beauty of it. The most important work is sometimes the least dramatic. Warmth being offered, a life being held, a promise being kept, quietly. And when the partner returns, the changeover happens with a gentle ceremony. A few calls, perhaps, a small bill touch, a soft repositioning. Then one bird lifts off and the other settles in, like two people swapping seats on a long night train so each can rest. Here's a small, sleepy smile. They don't argue about whose turn it is. There is no passive-aggressive sighing. Nobody says, "Well, I did it last time." The albatross is, frankly, better at teamwork than many human group projects. As you listen, let this calm teamwork soothe you. Let it remind you that support can be steady, not loud. That sharing weight doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes it's just, "You rest now, I'll hold things." Then later, we switch. And perhaps your body needs that feeling tonight. The feeling that you don't have to hold everything alone. The bed holds you. The darkness holds the room in quiet. Your breath holds you from the inside. Warmth shared in shifts. In and out, like a tide exchanging places with itself. The albatross parents continue their gentle rhythm, and you can borrow that rhythm too. Settling deeper, loosening more, letting sleep become the soft partner that takes its turn now. When the time comes, quietly, naturally, without fanfare, the egg becomes something else. Not suddenly, not loudly, just gradually. A soft shift from possibility into presence. Imagine the nest again in the cool island air. The wind is light. The sky is pale with early dawn or dim with evening haze. And there, where the egg once lay smooth and still, a tiny chick appears, small, downy, and cloud-soft. Albatross chicks often hatch covered in thick down, which helps them stay warm in the island's variable weather. That down can look like a little puffball, rounded, pale, and gently unbothered by the concept of style. The chick is not here to look sleek. The chick is here to be warm. At first, the chick's world is simple. Warmth, shelter, and the steady presence of a parent nearby. The parent's body becomes a living roof, shielding the chick from wind and cool air. There is no rush. Growth unfolds slowly, like a plant opening leaf by leaf. Parents feed the chick by regurgitating food brought back from the ocean, offering rich nourishment gathered from far out at sea. But we don't need to make it vivid in a way that wakes you up. We can keep it gentle. The parents return with ocean gifts, and the chick receives them like a sleepy little sponge of life. As the chick grows, it remains at the nest site for a long period in many species, gradually gaining strength. Albatross chicks often take months to fledge, building feathers and body mass over time. Nature invests in slowness here. There is no quick graduation, just steady, quiet becoming, and there's something comforting in that. The chick doesn't worry about being behind. It doesn't compare itself to other chicks on a growth chart and spiral emotionally. It simply grows. Imagine that freedom. Here's a tiny joke, tucked gently under the blanket. The chick is not optimizing. The chick is not tracking macros. The chick is not trying a new productivity method. The chick is just being a chick. Honestly, inspiring. So let this puff of cloud image soften you. Picture the chick nestled in the nest, down ruffling slightly in the breeze. Picture the parent nearby, calm and steady. Picture the island holding them both like a quiet cradle. And as the chick rests, let your own body rest with it. Let your muscles loosen, as if your bones are becoming lighter. Let your thoughts become downy, soft, fluffy, and not particularly interested in doing anything ambitious right now. A chick like a puff of cloud, a night like a slow tide, a breath like a gentle wing beat. Everything becoming calmer, softer, and more ready for sleep. There comes a time, slowly and naturally, when the chick begins to look less like a puff of cloud and more like a young albatross in progress. The down gives way to feathers. The body stretches. The wings lengthen, becoming more than soft decorations, becoming tools, becoming doorways. But none of this happens in a rush. Learning the language of wind is not a one-day lesson. It's a slow apprenticeship with the air, a gentle practice repeated in small moments, like a child learning how to walk by taking the same careful steps across a familiar room. On the island, you might see the young bird standing and spreading its wings, not soaring yet, just testing, feeling the weight of the wings in the air, letting the wind move across feathers. Sometimes it may face into a breeze and hold still, as if listening. The wind becomes a teacher that never raises its voice. As the bird grows, it begins to exercise its wings with small motions. A stretch, a flap or two, a pause, then another stretch. It looks like practice, but also like curiosity, like the body asking, "What can I do now?" And the wind answering, "Let's find out gently." Albatross fledging is often a gradual process. The young bird spends a long period developing the strength and feather structure needed for flight. When it finally leaves the nest and island, it steps into a life shaped by wide spaces. But tonight, we keep the focus on the softness of becoming, the slow build-up to that moment. Because becoming is often the most comforting part. It's where you don't have to be fully formed. You don't have to be perfect. You are allowed to practice. Here's a small, sleepy smile. The young albatross does not say, "I'm not ready." It does not spiral into self-doubt. It simply stretches its wings again tomorrow. Quiet confidence. No motivational quotes required. And as you listen, you can take that comfort for yourself. You, too, are allowed to practice rest. You don't need to be perfect at sleeping. You can simply try, softly, by loosening your shoulders a little more, by letting your breath slow, by allowing your thoughts to drift without gripping them. Imagine the young albatross facing the wind, wings open, feathers catching air like soft fingertips. The breeze moves through the wing edges, and the bird stands steady, learning with its whole body. Now imagine your breathing doing the same. Inhale, opening gently. Exhale, settling. Inhale, receiving. Exhale, releasing. Learning the language of wind. Learning the language of sleep. Both are quieter than you think. Both arrive through patience, and both, with time, feel like something your body has known all along. When you live over the ocean, time doesn't feel like minutes. It feels like wind shifts. It feels like the angle of sunlight changing. It feels like the slow return of familiar weather, like a song that comes back each year in a quieter key. For an albatross, life often unfolds on a long calendar. Many species take years to reach maturity, and their breeding cycles can be slow and steady. This isn't a life built for quick beginnings and fast endings. It's a life shaped by patience, by long distances, long learning, and long returns. Imagine the young albatross growing over months, then stepping into its first great flights. It doesn't become expert overnight. It becomes experienced through seasons, through repeated drifting, through the ocean's steady lessons. A year passes, then another, and the bird slowly becomes part of the wide air, the way a river becomes part of a valley, by being there again and again. And the ocean itself reinforces this feeling. Waves don't count. They repeat. Tides don't rush. They return. The wind doesn't set a deadline. It simply moves. So when we say time is measured in seasons, we mean something gentle. Life here is shaped by cycles. A season of feeding, a season of returning, a season of nesting, a season of rest. Each one arrives with a kind of calm inevitability, like bedtime arriving at the end of a day. There is something soothing in that, especially for a human mind that sometimes tries to compress life into short bursts, like microwaving a whole year into a few anxious minutes. The albatross doesn't do that. It doesn't hurry through its own becoming. It moves at the pace the ocean allows. Here's a small joke. Soft as a feather. The albatross does not have a 5-year plan. It has a wind is doing something interesting. I'll follow that plan. It's surprisingly effective. If your thoughts have been racing lately, jumping ahead, looping back, counting, calculating, let this part of the story stretch them out. Let time feel longer, softer, less demanding. Let your body remember that rest is also part of the cycle, not something you squeeze in, something that belongs. As the night continues, imagine seasons turning out at sea, the albatross gliding through them like a slow needle through fabric, stitching distance into memory, and you, listening, can also step out of clock time and into tide time, the gentle rhythm of breath, in and out, again and again. No deadline, no rush, just a steady return, like seasons, like waves, like sleep arriving in its own quiet way. The ocean is generous and it is wide, and like any home, it has its own imperfections, little rough edges, quiet difficulties, things that require care and attention. Tonight, we can acknowledge these gently, without tension, without turning the night sharp. Imagine the albatross gliding over water that looks calm and endless. From above, the sea appears smooth, like a dark blanket stitched with moonlight. But sometimes, floating on the surface, there are things that don't belong. Bits of plastic, stray lines, human leftovers that drift where waves carry them. For seabirds, these can become problems in quiet ways, mistaken for food or tangled into the wrong places. This isn't a story we need to dramatize. We can simply name it softly. The ocean's health matters because the ocean is home for many lives, including the albatross. There are also changes in the sea itself, shifts in temperature, shifts in currents that can influence where food is found and how wind patterns behave. The ocean is a living system, and like all living systems, it responds to what happens within it. Again, We keep this gentle. Nature is always adjusting, always balancing, always moving. And yet, even here, there's calm to be found. Because noticing something doesn't mean panicking about it. Noticing can be quiet. Caring can be soft. The night does not demand that you solve the ocean. The night simply invites you to love it. You can imagine the albatross continuing its steady life, returning to islands, gliding across currents, reading wind. And you can imagine humans doing small, steady things too. Reducing waste, supporting conservation, caring for marine spaces, not with urgency, but with consistency, a gentle commitment, like a tide returning. Here's a tiny joke, warm and quiet. The albatross does not leave trash behind. The albatross is a minimalist. One egg, one mate, one very large set of wings. It's living proof you don't need much to be magnificent. So let this part settle in a way that remains soothing. The ocean is not perfect, but it is still beautiful. It is still a place of moonlit hush and long glides. It is still worthy of tenderness. And right now, tenderness is the mood. A soft awareness, a gentle love for a world that breathes in waves. As you breathe, let your chest rise like a small swell. Let it fall like foam dissolving, in and out. The quiet rhythm continues, and the story returns to wonder, holding the ocean gently, without gripping, without fear, like a smooth stone held loosely in your hand. There is a kind of memory that doesn't live in words. It lives in shape, in texture, in the way a body fits into the world that made it. The albatross carries the memory of wind in its wings, not as a thought, but as design. Long wings that favor gliding, feathers arranged to manage air like a soft, invisible fabric. A body that seems to say, quietly, I have been shaped by open spaces. When you watch an albatross move through air, you can sense it. The ocean has written itself into this bird. The steady winds over water, the long distances between islands, the rhythm of waves. They have all left their imprint like a signature repeated over generations. And feathers themselves feel like memory too. Each feather grows with careful structure, then lies in place like a page in a book, preened, aligned, protected. Feathers hold warmth, carry lift, and offer the bird its signature hush. In moonlight, they catch a soft sheen, like the ocean reflecting the sky. If you listen closely to the idea of it, you may find a comforting thought. You also carry memory in your body, not only in your mind. Your muscles remember patterns, tension, release, posture, ease. Your breath remembers how to slow, even if you sometimes forget. And tonight, we practice a different kind of remembering. We remember softness. Imagine the albatross smoothing its feathers again, not because it is worried, but because it is natural. Feather by feather, the body restores itself. It's like tidying a room without judgment, just making the space more comfortable. Here is a small, gentle laugh. The albatross does not say, my feathers are a mess, I'm a failure. The albatross simply preens. No drama, no self-criticism. Imagine that peace. So let the memory of feathers become a memory inside you, a reminder that you can settle, you can smooth, you can realign. Your shoulders can drop a little, your jaw can unclench, your forehead can soften. The ocean's wind writes quiet stories into wings. The night, writes quiet stories into you, and the best ones are simple. Rest, release, return. As we drift onward, keep that sense of embodied memory, of long, gentle shaping over time, because sleep, too, is a kind of remembering, a return to what your body already knows how to do. Slow down, settle in, and float safely into the quiet. The ocean is not a single thing. It is a conversation, slow, wide, and full of listening. Currents move warmth from one region to another. Nutrients rise from deeper water in certain places, feeding plankton. Plankton supports small fish. Small fish support larger lives. And above it all, seabirds like the albatross glide, sensing where the sea is quietly abundant. This isn't intelligence in a human sense. No planning meetings, no spreadsheets, but it is a kind of balance, a feedback system, a gentle logic that works through patterns, not commands. Imagine a place where cold water meets warm water. The boundary can create life-rich areas. Or imagine an upwelling zone where deep water brings nutrients toward the surface. These conditions can make certain ocean regions especially productive, drawing fish and squid closer to where birds can find them. The albatross learns these patterns over time, following the sea's subtle signs like someone following familiar streets home. And the sea communicates constantly. Temperature shifts, wind changes. The surface looks different when currents meet. Even the smell changes. The whole system speaks, softly, in many layers at once. What's soothing about this is how unhurried it all is. The ocean doesn't flip from one state to another instantly. It transitions. It drifts. It adjusts like a person easing into a comfortable sleeping position, shifting until everything feels right. If you take a breath now, you can feel your own system doing something similar. Your heart rate slows. Your muscles release. Your mind becomes less sharp at the edges. You are also an ecosystem in a way, full of small processes that want to return to balance when you let them. Here's a tiny joke, whispered kindly. The ocean does not multitask. It just does many things at once very calmly. If humans tried that, we'd immediately open 47 tabs and forget why we came into the room. So let this part be a permission slip for gentle complexity. You don't have to force your mind into silence. You can let it become like the ocean, layered, slow, and softly organized. Thoughts can drift like currents. Feelings can rise and fall like tides. And underneath, everything can still be okay. The albatross is part of this system, not separate from it. It glides above a living conversation, reading signs, following abundance, returning when it's time. And you, listening, are part of tonight's system too. Breath, bed, darkness, sound. Each piece working together to guide you gently toward rest. If you could watch the albatross over a very long time, longer than a single night, longer than a single season, you would notice something quiet and powerful. This bird is the result of patience. Evolution in the natural world is often not a leap. It is a slow shaping, a gentle polishing by countless days and nights, by wind and water, by what works best in a specific home. The albatross's long wings are a perfect example. Over open oceans, gliding becomes efficient. Wings that create lift with minimal flapping become valuable. Bodies that conserve energy become steady travelers. So, over time, the albatross becomes more and more suited to its wide, windy world, not through hurry, but through gradual fit. Even its habits reflect this. The calm use of wind, the long-distance travel, the slow investment in raising a chick, the return to breeding sites. All of it feels like a life designed to match the ocean's pacing. And there is a gentle beauty in that. Nature does not demand instant mastery. It allows slow refinement. It allows practice. It allows becoming. If you've been hard on yourself lately, if you've felt you should be better by now, faster by now, more finished by now, then the Albatross offers a softer viewpoint. It suggests that time is part of the design, that learning can be measured in seasons, not minutes, that progress can be quiet. Here's a small joke, like a warm whisper. The Albatross did not reinvent itself overnight. It did not wake up one morning and say, "New me." It simply became, slowly, which is honestly the most sustainable kind of transformation. So let this part be calming in your body. Feel the way your breath adapts without effort. Inhale adjusts to your lungs. Exhale adjusts to your comfort. Your body is already good at slow, gentle regulation. It doesn't need you to micromanage it. It just needs space. Imagine the Albatross gliding again, wings extended, the wind holding it. That gliding is not a trick. It is a long-earned fit between creature and world. And tonight, you can also find fit between your body and your bed, between your mind and the quiet, between your breathing and the soft, repeating rhythm of night. Adaptation without hurry, rest without pressure, sleep without forcing. The Albatross becomes what it is through patience. And you too can become calmer through patience, one slow breath at a time, until sleep feels less like something you chase and more like something that naturally arrives when you finally stop hurrying. There is a soft kind of poetry in returning, not the kind written in bright ink, but the kind written in repetition, like waves arriving again and again, never identical, always familiar. For the Albatross, return is part of the shape of life. After long time at sea, after long glides and drifting days, there is a gradual leaning back toward the places that feel known. The bird does not rush toward the island like it's late for something. It simply turns, slowly, and lets the wind carry it in the direction of familiarity. If you imagine this return at night, it becomes even softer. The ocean is dark and wide, the moon a quiet lantern. The Albatross glides through air that smells faintly of salt and distant land. A shift in scent, a change in wind texture, small hints that land is somewhere ahead, waiting. And the island itself does something gentle too. It stays, it remains, it holds its shape in the water. It doesn't chase the bird, it just keeps being what it is. In nature, that kind of steadiness is love. Some albatrosses return to the same breeding sites year after year, and pairs may reunite across seasons. The details involve navigation and memory, but the feeling is simpler. Familiarity is a comfort. Returning is a form of rest. This can be true for us as well. Returning doesn't always mean going back to a location. Sometimes it means returning to a calmer version of yourself, returning to your breath, returning to the quiet inside your chest. Tonight, your breath is the island. It's the steady place that doesn't move away. You can return to it whenever your thoughts wander too far. And here's a tiny, affectionate joke. The Albatross doesn't return to the island and immediately start doing renovations. It does not say, "We should repaint this nest." It simply settles into what is already enough. So let this part of the story carry you into that feeling of enough. Imagine the albatross approaching land, slowly, steadily, without tension. Imagine the moment it senses the familiar air. Imagine how the bird's body relaxes into that recognition, as if saying, "Yes, here." Now let your own body do the same. Let your shoulders soften, as if recognizing comfort. Let your jaw loosen, as if returning to a place where it doesn't have to hold anything. Let your breath become the gentle loop home. Return is not an achievement, it is a rhythm. And tonight, you are allowed to move in that rhythm, drifting away and coming back again and again, until sleep feels like the most familiar shore of all. Out on the open ocean, cooperation often looks like something very simple, living side by side without making a fuss about it. The sea is shared space. Birds glide above it, fish move within it, plankton drifts through it, and currents carry everyone's stories in slow motion. And somehow, without any formal agreements, the system holds together. Not perfectly, but gently. Albatrosses participate in this quiet cooperation in several ways. At breeding colonies, they nest near others, leaving enough space, following familiar boundaries, and moving with a kind of mutual understanding. At sea, they may gather loosely where food is available, sharing the same productive patches of ocean without turning it into chaos. It's not teamwork in a human sense. It's coexistence, an unspoken, steady practice. Even the wind cooperates in its own way. It offers lift. It offers direction. The albatross responds with shape and timing. The ocean offers currents and nutrients. Life responds by gathering, feeding, drifting. It's a long chain of gentle exchange. What's soothing is how little arguing seems to happen. The sea doesn't spend time being offended. The wind doesn't take things personally. The albatross doesn't write a complaint letter to the atmosphere. Everything simply adjusts and continues. "Here's a tiny joke," whispered softly. "The ocean does not reply all. The ocean does not escalate. The ocean has never once said, 'Per my last tide.' It simply flows. A level of emotional maturity we can all admire. If you bring this back to your own night, you might notice your body cooperating too. Your lungs cooperate with your breath. Your heartbeat cooperates with rest. Your muscles cooperate by slowly letting go when you stop telling them to stay tense. And your thoughts, if you allow them, can also cooperate. They can stop fighting each other for attention. They can drift like seabirds in a loose group, sharing the same sky without colliding. So imagine the albatross gliding above water that holds many lives at once. No sharp edges, no competition story, just a wide community moving in quiet patterns. The bird follows scent and wind. A fish follows current and light. A wave follows the moon. Everything participates in a calm exchange, a kind of ecosystem courtesy. And as you listen, you can join that courtesy too. You can let the night hold you without resistance. You can let sleep approach without negotiation. You can cooperate with rest by doing less, by breathing more slowly, by allowing your body to sink into its support. Quiet cooperation at sea, quiet cooperation in you, a gentle reminder that peace often comes not from controlling everything, but from allowing everything to move together, softly, the way nature already knows how. There is a gift hidden inside slowness, and the albatross carries it like a quiet treasure, never bragging about it, never even naming it, simply living it. When the albatross glides, it doesn't look like it is working hard. It looks like it is participating in ease. Wings extend, wind supports. The bird moves forward without forcing. It reminds you gently that speed is not the only way to go far. Nature is full of slowness that succeeds. Trees grow ring by ring. Coral builds reef structures over long time. Rivers shape valleys patiently. And the albatross, one of the ocean's great travelers, does it with long calm, not frantic effort. This is comforting because humans often treat slowness like a mistake, like something to fix. We rush through meals, through conversations, through rest. We even rush through relaxation, which is honestly quite impressive in a slightly ridiculous way. The albatross does not do that. It is not trying to maximize efficiency by flapping harder. It is not racing the wind. It is gliding with it. Here's a small, sleepy laugh. The albatross is not late. The albatross has never been late. The albatross is on ocean time, which is a schedule that politely ignores your calendar app. So tonight, let slowness be your gift too. Let your breathing slow down as if it has all the time in the world. Inhale, like a wave gathering itself. Exhale, like foam dissolving back into the sea. Notice how the body responds when you stop pushing it. The shoulders drop. The stomach softens. The face relaxes. The mind, given a little space, begins to drift rather than sprint. And the story itself begins to feel slower too. Words stretch out. Images soften. The albatross's wings widen into an idea of ease that your nervous system can recognize. Slowness is not a lack. It is a fullness. It gives you room to feel safe. It gives you room to stop performing. It gives you room to simply exist, like an island at night. Still, steady, unbothered. Imagine the albatross again, floating on the sea between flights. It doesn't fill that time with anxious activity. It rests. It waits. It allows the next moment to arrive naturally. If you can, take that approach with sleep. You don't have to chase it. You can wait for it the way the albatross waits for wind, calmly, with trust that it will come. The gift of slowness is that it makes space for rest to appear. And tonight, that space is already here, quiet, wide, and ready to hold you. If you watch the tide for long enough, you begin to notice something comforting. It never tries to hold on to what is leaving. It comes in. It goes out. It returns again. No panic, no gripping, no dramatic speeches. The tide is a gentle teacher of release. Tonight, we let the tide teach us how to let go. Imagine the shoreline under moonlight. A slow wave arrives and spreads thinly across sand, reaching a little farther than the last one, then pausing just for a moment before it slips back. The retreat is quiet, almost shy. It doesn't yank itself away. It simply loosens, and the water returns to the sea. Now imagine the albatross resting near this rhythm. The bird's life is shaped by these cycles: departure, drift, return. It does not cling to a single moment of flight. It does not resist a moment of rest. It moves with the ocean's timing, allowing each phase to come and go. And if you listen gently, your body is already like this too. Your breath comes in. Your breath goes out. You don't have to force it. You only have to stop interrupting it with worry. Letting go can be simple. It can be physical. You can let go of the tension in your forehead. Let go of the tightness around your eyes. Let go of the clench in your jaw, like a tide easing back from shore. Here's a tiny joke, soft as sea foam. The tide does not overthink. The tide has never once said, "What if I go out and then I can't come back in?" The tide simply tides. Honestly, iconic. So tonight, you can simply release. Let go of today's conversations. Let go of tasks that didn't get finished. Let go of the need to review everything like a film critic. You can set those things on the shore and let the tide take them gently back into the wide sea of tomorrow. As you exhale, imagine the retreat of water, slow, smooth, complete. As you inhale, imagine the tide returning, soft, steady, enough. The albatross glides above this rhythm and belongs to it. The wind belongs to it. The moon belongs to it. And you, listening in bed, can belong to it too. Because sleep is also a tide. It moves in when you allow it. It lifts you. It carries you. And it never demands that you hold yourself together with effort. Let go like the tide, in and out, again and again. Each breath a little looser, each thought a little farther away, until your mind becomes a quiet shoreline and your body becomes calm water, resting, returning, and finally drifting. When we think of home, we often picture a place, a building, a room, a familiar street. But for many ocean travelers, home is not only a location. It is a pattern, a rhythm, a set of repeated comforts that the body recognizes. For the albatross, home can be an island breeding site, yes, but it can also be the feel of wind over open water, the steady pulse of waves, the scent of salt and seaweed, the long glide that returns again and again. The bird belongs to patterns the way we belong to routines, because they hold us without asking us to explain. Think of how you recognize home by small things, the way light falls in a certain corner, the sound of a familiar fan, the weight of a blanket, the shape of your pillow. These details aren't dramatic, but they are powerful. They tell your nervous system, you are safe. The albatross has its own details, the direction of prevailing winds on an island slope, the feel of ground under its feet, the familiar calls of others nearby, the way the ocean looks from a certain angle. These patterns repeat over seasons and become a kind of comfort language. And here's something soothing. You can create that comfort language tonight, right where you are. Home can be the pattern of your breath, in and out, steady and familiar. Home can be the pattern of your body settling heavier into bed, shoulders dropping, hands relaxing, legs softening, a slow sinking that says, "This is where I rest." Home can even be the pattern of this story, returning to ocean imagery, returning to wind, returning to the albatross's calm glide. Repetition becomes a lullaby. Here's a tiny joke, tucked in gently. The albatross does not redecorate its home every week. No seasonal throw pillows, no nest makeover videos. It returns to what works. A calm minimalist with excellent taste. So let your home pattern form now. Let the room be steady. Let the night be steady. Let the sounds, if there are any, become part of a soft background. Let your mind stop scanning for novelty and start recognizing the comfort of repetition. You don't have to solve anything. You don't have to figure out your whole life. Tonight, you only need one pattern: breathing, returning, settling. Home is a pattern. The albatross knows it in its wings and its loops across the sea. And you can know it too, in the quiet rhythm of your body easing into sleep. In and out, again and again. Familiar, safe, enough. Now gently, as if you found an old seashell in your pocket and remembered its shape, we return to the question from earlier. Not to solve it, not to pin it down, just to hold it again for a moment, the way you might hold a warm mug between sleepy hands. What does it mean to travel far without hurrying? The albatross offers an answer without speaking. It answers with a posture, wings wide, body relaxed, attention soft. It answers by gliding, by letting the wind do its quiet work, by allowing distance to unfold at the speed of air and tide. To travel far without hurrying, perhaps, is to trust the process of movement, to let the world carry you, instead of trying to force the world to behave. The albatross does not wrestle the sky into cooperation. It joins the sky. It becomes part of the wind's slow conversation. And maybe that is the gentle invitation for us tonight, to stop wrestling our own thoughts, to stop pushing sleep like it's a heavy door, to stop trying to get there as if rest were a task to complete. Because you are already traveling in a way, from wakefulness to sleep, from the sharp edges of the day to the softer shapes of night. And this is a journey best done slowly, with wide wings. Imagine the albatross again over the dark ocean. It makes a long arc, steady and calm. It rises slightly where the wind offers support. It lowers gently when the air softens. It does not hurry through the sky. It moves like a quiet sentence, unpunctured, unforced. Here's a tiny, sleepy smile. The albatross is not speed walking through the air with a little latte in one wing. It is not checking its step count. It is simply gliding effortlessly, unbothered. Almost rude, honestly. So take the question and let it settle into you like that, unbothered, unforced. What does it mean to travel far without hurrying? Maybe it means you can let your breath be enough. Inhale, and you are moving. Exhale, and you are moving too, just in the direction of letting go. Each cycle is distance traveled, gently. Maybe it means you can stop gripping the day. You can release the small things that want to keep buzzing in your head. You can let them drift like foam on water, dissolving quietly. And maybe, most simply, it means that you don't have to rush to sleep. You can arrive the way the albatross arrives anywhere, by allowing, by gliding, by trusting the air. So keep the question softly nearby as we continue. Like moonlight on water, like a quiet companion, and let your mind travel farther into calm, without hurrying at all. At some point in the night, even the wind seems to soften its voice, not because it stops, but because it chooses a gentler volume, like someone turning down the radio so the room can become quiet enough for sleep. Imagine the ocean now. The wave tops still move, but their edges feel smoother. The surface looks less busy, more like a long, slow breath made visible. The moonlight continues to spill in a pale path, shimmering lightly, and the clouds drift as if they have nowhere urgent to be. The albatross, too, seems to settle into this softened world. Its flight becomes even more economical, more effortless. Wings remain open, steady. The bird follows a calmer line, as if the air itself has become a slow-moving current that carries it without interruption. In nature, wind patterns shift gradually. Over the ocean, a breeze may ease as temperatures change through the night. Gusts become less frequent. The air smooths. And when the air smooths, the whole world feels less sharp, less demanding. This is a good time to let your own inner wind settle as well. If your mind has been moving quickly, thoughts popping up like little ripples, imagine them smoothing out. Imagine them spreading into a wide, quiet surface where each thought becomes softer at the edges. Not gone, just less insistent. Your breathing can help. Take a slow inhale, as if you're drawing in cool sea air. Then exhale, as if you're letting a wave slide back into the ocean. With each exhale, the wind inside you settles a little more. Here's a tiny joke, nearly asleep itself. The wind is not trying to be productive tonight. The wind is not grinding. The wind is not hustling. The wind is simply existing. A role model, truly. As the wind settles, the soundscape changes. You may imagine fewer sharp noises, more continuous hush. The ocean becomes a soft background, like white noise made by nature. The albatross's world becomes a place where motion and stillness blend together, where gliding feels like resting, and resting feels like gliding. And your body can follow that blend. You can let yourself be in between thought and dream, between awareness and drifting. You can let your eyelids feel heavier. Let your shoulders sink. Let your hands become warm and loose. The wind settles, the waves steady. The night becomes less of a scene and more of a blanket. And as you listen, you might notice that you're not trying as hard anymore. Sleep feels less like something to achieve and more like something that is already arriving, quietly, as naturally as evening air cooling over the sea. So let the wind settle. Let your mind settle with it and keep drifting, softly, smoothly, into the calm. Now we follow one last glide, not a dramatic finale, not a big closing scene. Just a gentle continuation that slowly becomes quieter, like footsteps fading down a hallway. The ocean beneath is dark and steady, and the moonlight is thinner now, softened by passing cloud. The horizon feels less like a line and more like a suggestion. Everything is becoming simpler. Everything is becoming more like sleep. The albatross glides low, not rushing, wings open like a calm embrace. The air supports it. The bird's body looks relaxed, as if it has learned a truth about the world. You don't need to struggle when you can align. This final glide is a kind of summary without words. It holds the patterns we've followed all night. Wind gradients, long wings, slow loops, quiet returns. The albatross doesn't need to prove anything now. It doesn't need to demonstrate skill. It just glides, because gliding is what it does when the world is calm. Imagine the sound of it, air moving gently over feathers, a soft hush, like fabric sliding across fabric. Below, the ocean offers the steady, repetitive voice of waves. Not loud, not demanding, just present. Your own breathing can match this glide. Inhale, wings open. Exhale, wings steady. Inhale, lift. Exhale, float. If a thought appears, let it be like a small ripple under the albatross, noticed, then left behind as the bird continues smoothly forward. No need to chase it, no need to solve it. Ripples come and go. The glide remains. Here's a tiny joke, so soft it's basically a yawn. The albatross does not overthink the glide. It does not ask, "Am I gliding correctly?" It simply glides. Imagine the peace of that. As we watch this final movement, you may notice your mind beginning to blur at the edges. Images may become dreamlike. Details may soften. That's good. That's natural. The story is beginning to dissolve into rest, the way salt dissolves into water. The albatross continues over dark water. The night air is cool and smooth. The moon is quiet. And you, listening, are already traveling far, farther from the day, farther from noise, farther into the calm. So let this glide be your own last gentle drift before sleep. Let your body become heavy and supported. Let your thoughts become sparse and quiet. Let the ocean's steady rhythm do what it has always done. Carry you, softly, into the next shore, where dreams begin. The island, too, has its bedtime. In the earlier parts of the night, we imagined it as a place of waiting and reunion. Wind over grass, rocks holding warmth, quiet nests shaped into the ground. Now, as the hours deepen, the island seems to soften further, as if it is settling into itself. The air cools gently, sounds reduce. A few distant calls may still drift across the colony, but they feel quieter now, like the last murmurs of a room before everyone drifts off. Feathers rustle softly. Bodies shift, then still. The wind moves over everything like a slow lullaby, smoothing the landscape into calm. Many seabirds rest at night, their activity reduced, their world turned down to a softer setting. And the island becomes a place of resting shapes, curved backs, tucked heads, wings folded like blankets. Even the grass looks sleepy, bent and still. Imagine the nests scattered across the island slope, small circles of life, each one holding a quiet story. A parent rests, a chick sleeps. A partner stands nearby, calm and steady. The whole colony feels like a community breathing together, synchronized by darkness and tide. And it's comforting, isn't it, to imagine that even wild places rest. The ocean rests in its own way. The wind rests in its own way. The island rests in its own way. Nothing stays on all the time. Everything has permission to dim. Here's a tiny, sleepy laugh. The island does not feel guilty for resting. The island has never once said, "I should be doing more." The island simply islands. Excellent boundaries, very healthy. Now let that permission move into you. Let your room become an island. Let your bed become the slope where you settle. Let your blanket become the folded wing. Let your breathing become the colony's shared rhythm. You might notice your body feeling heavier, and that's good. That's the weight of rest arriving. Your face softens, your hands loosen. Your breathing becomes slower, deeper, more regular. The island sleeps too. The night holds everything gently, and you are allowed to be part of that holding. As you drift, imagine the last light of the day fully gone, replaced by a steady darkness that feels safe. Imagine the island wrapped in wind and moonlight. Imagine the albatrosses tucked into their calm routines. And let that image be your own routine now. Settle, soften, sleep. Now we enter the final rest pacing, the part where facts become fewer and breath becomes the main story. The albatross remains with us, but mostly as a rhythm. A slow wing beat, a wide glide, a steady return. Take a moment to notice your breath. You don't need to change it quickly. Just notice it, like watching the ocean from a quiet shore. Inhale, and imagine wings opening gently, not snapping open, just unfolding, like a blanket being lifted to let fresh air in. Exhale, and imagine those wings settling into a glide, wide, supported, steady. Inhale, wings open again. Exhale, wings steady again. This is breath like a wing beat, not fast, not forceful, just a slow, repeating motion that carries you forward without hurry. If it helps, imagine the albatross over moonlit water. Each inhale is a small rise into smoother air. Each exhale is a soft glide downward into calm wind. The bird does not strain. The bird does not fight. The bird allows. And you can allow too. Your chest rises and falls like a gentle swell. Your belly softens like sand under receding water. Your shoulders drop like a wingtip, lowering slightly as the air becomes more supportive. Here's the last little joke you might need tonight, whispered with a smile. You do not have to breathe perfectly. There's no breath score, no breath report card. The albatross is not grading you. The albatross is busy being peacefully unbothered. So keep it simple. In and out. Slow, comfortable, natural. If a thought appears, let it pass like a cloud crossing the moon. It can dim the light for a moment, then it moves on. You don't have to chase it. You don't have to hold it. You can let it drift beyond the edge of your awareness. Inhale, wings open. Exhale, wings glide. With each cycle, feel yourself settling deeper, heavier, more supported, as if the bed is an ocean and you are a calm boat resting on it, as if the blanket is a warm current holding you in place, as if the room is an island and you have finally arrived. Breath like a wing beat, slow, steady, repeating. This is the rhythm that carries you into sleep, quietly, gently, without any need to hurry. The ocean has a way of singing without making a sound that feels sharp. Its lullaby is made of repetition, wave after wave, breath after breath, like a gentle hand smoothing the same blanket again and again. Imagine you're listening from far away. Even if you're not near the sea at all, you can still hear it in your mind. The long hush of water arriving, the soft pause as it spreads, the quiet retreat as it slips back. The rhythm is steady enough to trust. It never surprises you. It never asks you to keep up. If you picture the albatross now, it's less a character and more a feeling. Wings outstretched, drifting above this lullaby, moving in harmony with the ocean's slow music. The bird doesn't interrupt the soundscape. It belongs inside it, like a note that was always meant to be there. And you, listening in bed, can belong inside it too. Let your breathing stay slow. Inhale, as if you're drawing in cool sea air. Exhale, as if you're letting a wave slide away from shore. The ocean doesn't try to hold on to the water it releases. It lets go. And you can let go as well. If any thoughts are still lingering, small worries, unfinished tasks, stray memories. Imagine placing them on the surface of the sea like tiny paper boats. You don't need to sink them. You don't need to chase them. You can simply set them down and watch them drift farther, softer, until they become part of the horizon. Here's the gentlest joke, barely more than a smile. The ocean has never once said, "I should be more productive." The ocean simply waves. Honestly, that's enough. As the lullaby continues, details fade. The world becomes less about images and more about comfort. The sound of water becomes a steady cushion for the mind. The night becomes a wide, dark room with soft corners. The air feels smoother. The bed feels warmer. If you're still awake, that's okay. There's no urgency. The ocean doesn't rush the tide. It just keeps singing, wave after wave, breath after breath, a hush that repeats until it becomes home. And if you begin to drift, if the edges of the story blur, let them blur. That's the lullaby doing its work. That's your body accepting the rhythm it has always known. The ocean's lullaby is simple. Arrive, release, return. Arrive, release, return. And somewhere above that steady music, an albatross glides, quietly, endlessly, like a calm thought that finally decides to stop trying and simply float. Now the night begins to feel even more distant from the day, as if you've walked far down a quiet beach and the noise of everything else has faded behind you. Ahead, there is only fog and moonlight and gentle space. Imagine fog drifting over the ocean, thin, slow, and soft as breath. It slides across the surface like a veil, turning the world into quieter shapes. The horizon disappears, and in its place is a gentle uncertainty that feels safe, not confusing. The kind of uncertainty that says, you don't have to know what's next right now. Feathers, too, belong in this softness. Imagine the albatross's feathers catching a hint of moonlight, then fading into fog. The bird becomes less defined, more like a peaceful idea than a sharp outline. It glides through the mist as if the air is made of silk. This is the kind of distance we want tonight, not the distance of loneliness, but the distance of relief. The distance from emails and errands. The distance from conversations you replay. The distance from the tightness of needing to be on. So let distance grow. Let your body feel heavier, like it's settling deeper into the bed. Let your face soften. Let your tongue rest gently in your mouth. Let your hands loosen as if they're finally releasing whatever they were holding all day. Here's a tiny joke tucked in like a lullaby. Even the fog isn't trying too hard. The fog does not hustle. The fog simply fogs. A true inspiration for bedtime energy. As the fog drifts, it repeats the same gentle movement. Slide, soften, settle. Slide, soften, settle, and your breath can follow. Inhale, like fog gathering near the water. Exhale, like fog thinning and spreading wider. The ocean beneath remains steady, though you can't see it clearly now. And that's comforting. You don't need to see everything to be held by it. You don't need perfect clarity to be safe. The albatross glides through soft distance, unhurried, unbothered. It is not searching for sharp edges. It is content inside the blur, and you can be content there too. So allow the story to blur. Allow the images to soften. Allow the words to become less important than the feeling they leave behind. Feathers, fog, and soft distance. A world becoming quieter and quieter until the only thing that remains is the gentle rhythm that carries you. Breath and rest and the slow, kind drift into sleep. There's a kind of belonging that doesn't need permission. You don't have to apply for it. You don't have to prove you deserve it. It simply exists, like moonlight falling on the ocean, like wind moving through grass, like night wrapping the world in calm. The albatross belongs to the night wild, not because it claims it, but because it moves within it naturally. It glides where wind carries. It rests where water holds. It returns where islands wait. Its life fits into the rhythms of the ocean, the way a lullaby fits into a quiet room. And you can belong too. Right now, you belong to this moment, the softness of your bed, the quiet of your space, the steady pattern of your breath. You don't need to be doing anything to belong here. You simply are here. And that is enough. If the day made you feel like you had to perform, like you had to be useful or impressive or perfectly composed, let that fall away now. Night does not demand performance. Night only offers rest. Imagine the island again, sleeping. Imagine the colony quieted, feathers tucked, heads resting. Imagine the ocean continuing its steady breath. Everything belongs to the night by letting itself be held. Here's the gentlest joke, barely audible. Even the stones seem relaxed. They've had practice, thousands of years of practice, frankly, overachievers. Let that humor soften you, not wake you. A tiny smile in the dark, then a deeper settling. You might notice now that your thoughts are fewer, or slower, or softer. And if a thought does appear, it doesn't have to be a problem. It can simply be part of the night wild too, like a small bird call in the distance. Heard, then gone. Inhale, and feel belonging expand in your chest. Exhale, and feel belonging settle in your body. You are safe enough to rest, safe enough to loosen, safe enough to drift. The albatross belongs to wind and distance. The ocean belongs to the moon's pull. The island belongs to the night's cool blanket. And you belong to sleep the way you belong to breathing, naturally, quietly, without needing to earn it. So let your body accept that belonging now. Let it sink into support. Let it release the last bits of tension. Let it drift into the night wild, where everything is softer, slower, and held by rhythms older than thought. Everything flows through the wild. Now we let the story become even quieter, less like narration and more like a gentle atmosphere you can float inside. The ocean continues, steady and unchanging in its kindness. Waves arrive without asking permission, and they leave without hesitation. The wind moves across the surface like a slow, careful hand. The moonlight thins and spreads, turning the world into soft silver and dark velvet. Somewhere out there, more felt than seen, the albatross continues its calm motion, wings open, steady, body relaxed. The bird glides as if the air itself is a wide bed, and flight is simply another way to rest. Your breathing is the main sound now. Inhale, slow and easy. Exhale, long and soft. Let your jaw loosen. Let your shoulders settle. Let your hands rest heavily, as if they are finally done holding the day. If any last thoughts appear, you don't have to push them away. You can treat them like distant waves, present, then dissolving. They can come and go without taking you with them. Imagine the island again, sleeping in the ocean's arms. Imagine grasses bending gently in the night breeze. Imagine the colony quiet, feathers tucked, warmth shared in stillness. Imagine the fog drifting, smoothing the edges of everything until the world is made mostly of comfort. And imagine yourself as part of this landscape, not separate from it, not outside of it. You are another resting creature of the night, allowed to be quiet, allowed to be slow, allowed to let go. Inhale and feel the night widen around you. Exhale and feel yourself sink deeper into rest. There is nothing you need to fix right now, nothing you need to plan, nothing you need to hold. Only the steady rhythm, like tide, like wind, like wings. And as the story fades, we leave you with the closing words, soft and certain, like the ocean's endless return. Everything flows through the wild. Sleep in that motion.